Rounding the clubhouse turn, and Hard Money Muchacho sets the pace with Arrogate Spirit moving in to take second. Down at the rail, I Got a Guy close up in third. They're followed by Running for Kosi. Mongolian Spring is only 2 lengths off the lead under a stranglehold behind rivals, and it's another 3 back to Tap It Down. 5 lengths covers them onto the backstretch. Hard Money Muchachos dictating terms. There's a little bit of room for I Got a Guy, and he comes through to try and challenge in second. Arrogate Spirit keeping pace on the outside of him. Then it's Mongolian Spring, fourth, 4 lengths off the lead, 3 clear of Running for Kosi, and Tap It Down moves by him. Into the far turn, Hard Money Muchachos has been prominent throughout as Arrogate Spirit turns up the pressure. These two sprint away. And Arrogate Spirit is the new leader at the 5/16, quickly putting a half length on Hard Money Muchachos. Tap It Down inches up on the outside of I Got a Guy as the field turns for home. Arrogate Spirit in front. Hard Money Muchachos fights back doggedly along the rail. They pass the 8th pole together. On the inside, it's Hard Money Muchachos and Arrogate Spirit. Arrogate Spirit doing the better work past the 16th pole. He's a half length in front, and it will be Arrogate Spirit and Diego Herrera taking care of business. Hard Money Muchachos fought well, but was second best. Then I Got a Guy and Tap It Down. They're in the gate. And they're off. Don't Bring Crazy is going out for the early lead. Tambo and Dua coming through along the inside, but it's a very compact group. 2 lengths covers all of them as Tambo comes through and is now on even terms, takes a narrow lead from Don't Bring Crazy. Dua along the fence in third. Black Pink is fourth, but just 2 lengths off the battle. Then it's Beau Soleil and Hattie T. They have a half mile to run. Tambo and Don't Bring Crazy racing together as one, with Dua 2 lengths back in third. Then comes Black Pink in fourth on the outside, a length to Beau Soleil. Hattie T is tailed off. 3 furlongs out, Don't Bring Crazy by a neck now over Tambo. These two have been dueling. 3.5 in front of Dua third, followed by Black Pink in fourth, and then Beau Soleil. They have passed the quarter pole and turned for home. Don't Bring Crazy just in front. At the rail, Tambo fighting bravely in second. Dua on the inside. Far outside is Black Pink, and inside of them, Beau Soleil. Tambo and Don't Bring Crazy, neither one giving an inch. Don't Bring Crazy, Tambo, Don't Bring Crazy. They come for the wire together, and Tambo prevails, outrunning Don't Bring Crazy. It was a distance to Beau Soleil in front of Black Pink and Dua. It's in third. Black Pink is fourth, but just 2 lengths off the battle. Then it's Beau Soleil and Hattie T. They have a half mile to run. Tambo and Don't Bring Crazy racing together as one, with Dua 2 lengths back. And they're off. We Miss Grammy is going out for the early lead. Adderley up close in the opening furlong. No Way It's Today comes through on the fence. A very tough to handle Sunglasses is under a tight hold on the inside of Warrior Lady. Mahina is at the back of the field. Around the clubhouse turn. And it's We Miss Grammy with an easy lead of a length and a half. Adderley races second. Down at the rail, No Way It's Today. Sunglasses tugs up on the outside, and she's keen to go, taking second. At the back of the field, Warrior Lady and Mahina. Down the back stretch, and it's We Miss Grammy and Sunglasses. Sunglasses on the outside, just in front now. No Way It's Today. 2.5 off the pace in third. Adderley just outside of her. Then Mahina and Warrior Lady. Sunglasses takes them into the far turn with a narrow edge. We Miss Grammy at the rail, just ahead away second. 3 more, No Way It's Today. Ask for a bit more at this stage. Adderley moves by her. And then comes Mahina, starting to pick up some momentum on the outside. She'll swing to the center of the course at the top of the stretch. It's Sunglasses on the far outside. Mahina with good energy. And she just blows by them all and is home free. Mahina towering over the competition in the stretch run to score by 3 widening lengths. Adderley second. Photo for third. No Way It's Today, and We Miss Grammy. Daddy Justified. In the gate. And they're off. EJ won the cup, and De Medici, the first 2 out. Daddy Justify flashing some early foot. Mongolian Champ in between horses. Sinful King is next. Wins It Well, a bit wide into the first turn, and Mongolian Max at the back of the field. So De Medici is able to get the lead from EJ Won the Cup. And those two have sped 5 lengths clear as they make their way onto the backstretch. Daddy Justify is 3 deep. Mongolian Max at the rails. Sinful King between those two. Then Mongolian Champ and Wins It Well. EJ Won the Cup, takes over past the 5/8 pole, opens up a length while well off the rail. De Medici is in second. Daddy Justify on the outside, a joint third with Mongolian Champ. They race together. Down on the inside, it's Mongolian Max, Sinful King, and Wins It Well. 4 lengths covers them into the far turn. EJ Won the Cup, doing it nicely. Leads by a length and a half. Now it's 2. De Medici is in second. Mongolian Champ, Daddy Justify, followed by Wins It Well. Then comes Mongolian Max. Sinful King is far back. EJ Won the Cup. De Medici swings to the outside to try again. 3/16 to go. EJ Won the Cup, 3-length lead. De Medici trying his best. 5 back to Mongolian Champ in third. A 16th to go. EJ Won the Cup. De Medici still grinding away. EJ Won the Cup. De Medici a final try. EJ Won the Cup. Too strong. 3/4 of a length. De Medici second. Mongolian Champ. Daddy Justify and Wins It Well. Middle. And they're off. The favorite Gypsy King broke out very smoothly, straight to the front. Bruto comes to engage, and in between them, it's the Bullion Bomber. 3 of them across the course, and now the Bullion Bomber and Bruto go on. Gypsy King gets a sweet spot to track them from third. It's another length and a half to a hard-held Tigeron fourth, who's 4 lengths off the lead now. Another 3, Erebus is 3 deep, racing on the outside of Trusty Rusty with Kimmer in between those two. Incredible Shot second to last, and Barsabas trails. Bruto, the Bullion Bomber, Gypsy King 3 deep coming after them now. Another 3 to Tigeron in fourth, followed by Erebus. They're followed by Incredible Shot outside Trusty Rusty and Kimmer. Top of the stretch, and Gypsy King is now up to take the lead at the 8th pole. Has to hold off Tigeron, who's coming smartly on the outside. Tigeron comes to Gypsy King. Gypsy King, Tigeron with the momentum, and Tigeron goes right on by. Tigeron, clearly best. Gypsy King was second. Tight photo, very tight, between Incredible Shot and the Bullion Bomber, then Erebus. And they're off. Shanghai Sunrise is out alertly. So too Elton Sings Another, who's up to take the lead. Irish Wahini comes out in third. Bella Ranella on the fence. White Blinkers fourth. Stay in line fifth, 3 lengths off the leaders. They're followed by Diamonds Dancing on the far outside. Uncontrollable is second to last. And Wish They All Could Be is 7 off the lead and well off the fence. Elton Sings Another into the far turn, 3 furlongs out. Leads by a length to Shanghai Sunrise in second. Stay in line, Bella Ranella right together. Irish Wahini splits that pair. Diamonds Dancing 4 wide, 4 off the lead. Uncontrollable and Wish They All Could Be. They pass the quarter pole. Elton Sings Another has been there throughout. Hugs the rail and goes on well to be in front by 2 lengths. Irish Wahini comes out of the pack to chase very nicely. And here comes Irish Wahini with dead aim on Elton Sings Another. Elton Sings Another. Irish Wahini on the outside under Tyler Bays goes on by. And it's going to be Irish Wahini. 3/4 of a length. Elton Sings Another was second. Uncontrollable from well back was finishing very nicely. Photo for fourth between Bella Ranella and Diamonds Dancing. You're in the gate. And they're off. Dick Best in the center of the course out for the early lead. Rodrigo Knows comes away in second. They're followed by Dazzle the Command, who moves up, takes third. Wine and Whiskey is on the extreme outside. Druidic is 1 from the rail. Down on the rail, Billy's Bet hugs that fence and is only 3 lengths off the lead, rounding the turn. Barely Functional, 1 from the outside. Wine and Whiskey in the pink is 6 off the lead. It's another 2 lengths back. Tom and Jazzy is unhurried in the early going. A gap of 5 to McGollin Rim. The 2 trailers are Bronco Nagurski and the favorite Moogie Sun. Down the back stretch, heading to the half-mile pole. Dick Best 3/4. Now it's a half to Rodrigo Knows in second. Wine and Whiskey just off them in third. They're followed by Billy's Bet. Druidic is in fifth, 4.5 lengths off the lead. Then Barely Functional inching up just a touch. A length and a half clear of Dazzle the Command, who's losing ground. Tom and Jazzy is next. Rispoli and Moogie Sun still have a dozen to make up, starting to make some headway. 4 in front of McGollin Rim and Bronco Nagurski. Dick Best, Rodrigo Knows, 1-2 at the top of the stretch. Barely Functional on the inside is in with a good chance. He's had a ground-saving, beautiful journey. Can he get inside of Dick Best? Dick Best trying to fend him off. Barely Functional along the inside, center of the course. Tom and Jazzy late. Barely Functional gets through. It's going to be a driving finish, photo finish. Dick Best was so tough on the front end. He and Barely Functional in a win photo. Just behind them, it was Tom and Jazzy and a battle for 4th and 5th.
And welcome to the weekend simulcast seminar. I'm your host, Tom Quigley, and this is called the TQ Takeover. I have hijacked the studio for the next 1 hour. Tom Quigley is tied up in his basement, and joining me now, Peter Thomas Fornatale. Peter, how you doing?
I've told you, Chappie, not to involve me in your crimes. But in all seriousness, it's great to be here, and I'm enjoying the role reversal. Usually it's me hosting you for the mashups we do on the Santa Anita YouTube channel ahead of big days, but now we get to talk about this pretty darn interesting Saturday card and have some fun along the way.
Very interesting card, obviously, and I'm not used to doing this role. Sometimes I do it otherwise, but with you know how to lead into this. I'm winging it, and you're kind of leading me along the way, but I do appreciate it. And Pete and I go way back, so it makes it a little bit more comfortable. But tell us what you are doing in town, first of all.
I really don't like it when a meet goes by without getting to spend a weekend at the Great Race Place. As part of my job with the In the Money Media, I get to follow horses around the world. But honestly, this is one of the places where I am the most at home. And it's just wonderful to come out here, see some great racing, make some new friends, and hopefully pick some winners.
Yeah, that's kind of the hopefully that's what we get accomplished today. But no matter what, we're going to have some fun. And, I got to tell you, Pete and I go back to the days where my first and only trip, I actually went to Saratoga, and you were kind enough to put me up in your place. And people always tell me about Saratoga. I didn't know what to expect. What a different place than it is around here. And we got the most beautiful weather. It was 72 degrees. It was sunny. We had no humidity, no rain. I'm glad you ordered it up for that weekend, but I want to extend my appreciation once again for that.
So kind of you. That was a great, fun weekend. You brought the weather with you from California, which was much appreciated. The place that you stayed, we affectionately call it the Degenerate Flophouse, and those words were never more true than that weekend.
Yeah, no, I filled that role very nicely that weekend, but it's actually have the roles reversed now. Very nice to have you in town. And before we get into it, how is the weather back in New York compared to here?
It's not as good. I'll say that much. It hasn't been one of those brutally cold New York winters that we have from time to time. And I know you guys haven't had what's customary, but I still laugh every time it's a 60-degree day and I see people like our mutual friend Gary Fenton in the park, looking like a Nanook of the North, as if it's about to be ice and snow any second. Your guys' concept of what cold is very, very different than what we do back east, and this as a Midwest guy.
Well, but you know what? Here's the funny thing about that is I am a Midwest guy, and I am more pathetic than everybody else out here. I mean, I lived here long enough. Now I'm the Midwest guy who gets colder than everybody else. But
They've ruined you.
Yeah, they have absolutely ruined me. But if it's 60 degrees and it's sprinkling, it's storm watch, and no one goes outside. So it's such a difference, and I'm glad it's dry this weekend, but we had plenty of rain over the last month. Hopefully that's past us now. And now we're getting into the exciting part of the season as well with all the 3-year-old prep races.
It's fantastic. Next weekend, obviously huge, really excited. We're going to be doing a lot of coverage on the network of the Ultimate Betting Challenge. That's something we're going to be talking about a bunch this week, and just terrific stakes races at both Gulfstream and here. The whole first Saturday concept. I love it, and I'm really excited to see what happens in horse racing as we're now really in earnest in the big run-up to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and this part of the first racing tour now, we're getting involved in that. And then, as you alluded to earlier, next weekend, stay tuned, but we will have the mashup show between us and In the Media covering the big races, especially here at Santa Anita with Big Cap Day.
It's going to be great. We've really had a great response to these shows. We put them out on our In the Money Media YouTube channel, the Santa Anita YouTube channel, and we usually get an interesting cast of reprobates to join us. We'll see who we pull in from the bench for next week. But I have to say, in the shows we've done together, we have a pretty good record of giving out winners and getting a positive response. So it's always great to be working with you, and hopefully we're gonna start that off today, and we'll keep it going all week long.
Now we've still got a couple minutes. Let everybody know. Quite a people do. But what is In the Money Media? How did that get started? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So it started off as a lone podcast, actually under the Daily Racing Form umbrella. And then just 5 years ago, we decided to go it solo and start our own company. And again, just started off as one podcast. It's since then grown to be a family of podcasts. Michelle, who everybody knows, obviously, does a show for us called The Owner's Box, more focused on horse ownership. I host the flagship podcast, we call it, with Jonathan Kinchin. We do 2 shows a week. Early in the week, we review the previous weekend's action. And then late in the week, it's all about looking ahead and trying to find the winners of races. And we've subsequently expanded to where now we also have a free newsletter, which is a great place to get all of our content. We've got free tips and analysis on our website, inthemoneypodcast.com. And Jonathan and I have really made an initiative this year to try to expand our offerings on YouTube, where we're doing a lot of Derby content that's been very well received on there. So yeah, we would like to be a place for horse players to hang out, essentially, however they want to get their media.
So the shameless plug for me, go to In the Money Media on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I see, I've learned that.
This is good. Very important stuff.
Follow and subscribe, and then you will get information. They do content all week long. And I know Jonathan's lazy, so I'm assuming you do a lot of the production side of it as well, and the editing and all that. You're a jack of all trades. He's just a talking head figure.
What he said. No, Jonathan has been incredibly involved in our sort of strategic development as a company. It's actually one of the really fun things from the very earliest days of starting our own company, is the ability to be able to collaborate with him behind the scenes. But please don't tell him I said anything nice about him.
No, I won't. Believe
His head's big enough already.
Yeah, I get that. And most of the time, you're either at the Brooklyn Bunker, or then you're also, is that just during Saratoga that you're at the place at Saratoga?
We try to get up as often as possible. This time of year, it's tough because, last weekend in Tampa Bay, this weekend here, in 2 weeks, going to be going over to England. So Saratoga gets short shrift in the spring, but I really try to get up at least once a month. It's really a very fun town, even when it's sometimes even more fun when it's off season. So Saratoga stays in the mix when I'm not following horses around the globe.
I love it. Well, I'd love to get back there again, but shortly we're going to get to the task at hand, which is Santa Anita racing, which we're all about. So we will now throw it up to Frank Miramonte. Hopefully on the other side, I will be back. There are rumors I might be kicked out of here because Quigley has untied himself and is en route to the Great Race Place. Let's throw it up to Frank.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the Great Race Place. Here are the early changes. The track is fast, the turf is firm, rail on the turf at 10 feet. We have another super high 5 carryover, this one over $10,000. No changes in the opener. The second starts the early pick 4, no changes. In the third, scratch number 6, Love Me Like a Fool. No super high 5. Fourth race, we have a special middle pick 4 offered with race 4 today. Number 5, Winning Big, will carry 2 pounds over. Middle pick 4 starts with the 4th. Fifth race kicks off the pick 6. Changes. In the 6th race, started the late pick 5. A couple of blinker notes. The 7th is the grade 3 Santa Ana Stakes. Also, the first leg of the $3 All-Turf Pick 3. All-Turf Pick 3 today on races 7, 9, and 10. No changes in the Santa Ana. Blinker notes in race 8. 9th race kicks off the Golden Hour Pick 4. Scratch number 3, Player B. And in the 10th, scratch number 4, Tiger's Arrow started the Golden Hour double. Enjoy your day at Santa Anita Park. Post time for the first is in 58 minutes at 12:30. Let's go back to Quigley's Corner. Special guest today, Peter Thomas Fornatale.
And welcome back to the Santa Anita Handicapping Seminar. I'm your host, Tom Quigley, and we'd like to welcome our guest, flew in from the East Coast, Peter Thomas Fornatale. Welcome again, Peter. You ready to get started?
Great to be here with you as part of your little King of Comedy scenario where you've detained Tom and have decided that you're the real star.
Yeah, this is going so well. I might keep him in the basement till next weekend, so I will be back tomorrow as your guest once again. But let's dive right into what's important today. And this is race 1, starting off the early pick 5. And we've got a field of 8 and going a mile on the turf. What are your thoughts here in race 1?
I think it's a pretty interesting race to kick things off. I thought that the 5 Bandwagon looked like the runner I wanted. Not going to be a terribly huge price, but this is a horse to me that just looks like the fastest one on numbers, and I think it's going to be able to get a great stalking trip from the second flight. Those paces in the recent runs have been pretty quick and the final time solid. So I think it's probably good form. That run 2 back has produced 3 next out winners. And I think that the turn back and distance from the 9 panels to the 8 is going to add to this one's appeal. I won't stand alone. I feel like the 4 Twirling Point is an obvious alternative and maybe the one to pick up the pieces if Bandwagon joins the party too early and this pace really hots up. Last time Twirling Point was competitive at the stakes level, and that race was probably a little bit better than it looked, closing into what looked to be a slow pace. I might just try to lock up the first half of the early double with the 5 and the 4.
So probably too deep here. And Anthony Frisu's having a terrific run here. The jockey on number 5 Bandwagon, been on quite the tear lately.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I've been very impressed with the things I've been seeing, and definitely a rider I'm gaining confidence in the more I get to see him do his thing.
And a reminder, there is a super high 5 carryover of $10,256. So let's move on to race 1. We're going 6 furlongs, $12,000 non-winners of 3 lifetime. What are your thoughts here, Pete?
So I took a long look at that common race that a bunch of these came out of from January 13th, and I was confident that the form of that is going to hold up. And I think as a result, the 2 Dancing Dana is the one I want. That was a day where closers did pretty well overall, so I'm going to mark up that effort where she dueled on the lead in a race that was won by a horse coming from dead last. I think this time around, Dancing Dana is going to be able to sit in the pocket and hopefully just swing out and take those leaders on the turn and get the job done. My other idea that I might do a small backup with is a little goofy. This is one that, I'm either going to look very smart or foolish. I do think that the 1 Soul Sweet might be worth a little backup on coming out of that mixed breed race at Los Al, breaking from the rail, maybe has the speed to get loose. And I expect that Soul Sweet will be a pretty big number, but I'd say 80% of my action going to probably go through the 2 Dancing Dana in race 2.
So on races like this where there's multiple horses in a race, I mean, obviously you go back and watch a lot of replays. Is that, one of my favorite handicapping tools is using XBTV for workouts,
for sure,
especially for first-time starters, horses off of layoffs, things like that, and going back, watching a race. Do you watch the pan, the head-on, each horse, let's say there's 4 in there, 4 different times, or just I actually pause it and I figure out where they're at, see if there's trouble lines. Everybody has their own way of doing things. How do you handicap a race like that?
My favorite way to do it is to have already done the work. In other words, in real time, with so much time between races, I like to focus on one, maybe two tracks at a time. Sometimes with TV gigs or whatever, you don't have that luxury, or you're doing four, and that's when I'll end up looking back. But if in real time I can make note of what those most important things were in the race, I think I can get away with hopefully just watching the replay a couple of times and be able to make the most relevant notes, the ones that I'm really going to want to come back to. When you see a common race, though, I think like a race like this where 4 of the 6 runners are coming out of the same race, it does make sense to watch it again as you're handicapping, just in case there was something you didn't notice the first time. So It's slightly different approaches depending on the specifics, but the more you can have that work done in advance, the better off you can be.
And sometimes it's a big benefit because let's say that race, you don't like the race in particular. So you might go to a new shooter in that race because you can say, hey, in my opinion, this is a weak race. Let's eliminate those 3-4 horses and go to somebody coming into the race that doesn't come out of that common race.
The new face is the term you'll hear people use all the time. And when a common race is uninspiring, or very often when horses take turns beating each other, those are exactly the type of horses I was drawn to. And maybe part of the reason why I try to make a little bit of a creative case on the one Soul Sweet here as an alternative. But I think there's enough reasons to think that Dancing Dana effort was better than it looked, that I'm pretty comfortable making her the top selection.
Well said. All right, let's move on to race 3. We're going a mile on the turf, state bred, maiden special weights. And what are your thoughts? A field of 6, number 6, Love Me Like a Fool, has been scratched.
I think that Sneaker is a very short-priced favorite who's going to be tough to oppose. Last time out, lost to an odds-on runner, and this time around, it's probably time for Sneaker to be the odds-on favorite. This horse was 6 clear of third, and that just looks too strong for the rest of this field. I may take a small saver with the one Beautiful Janet on the pace angle. You'd think this one's going to break running from the rail, and doesn't look to have a ton of company on paper. Probably just going to end up a target for Sneaker, just based on the overall uninspiring form. But hey, one of the truest of the cliches in horse racing, pace makes the race. When I see a scenario with a horse that's going to be a decent price like Beautiful Janet could get loose, I'll try to have on a ticket or two. But this one's basically all about Sneaker.
Basically all about Sneaker. And like you said, that's one of my best angles, even using a horse like Beautiful Janet. Pace makes the race. You always try to draw that up in your head, who's going to get to the lead, slow it down, whatnot. And that's an angle that will never fail the test of time.
I had the experience yesterday, always fun at the racetrack to sit with the new, I think this is official news, otherwise I might be breaking it, the new NHC Hall of Famer, Duke Matisse. And he describes that process you're talking about as race design, sort of running the race in your head. And one of the many things I've learned from my association with him over the years.
But by the way, I saw Duke yesterday. I did not know that. So, if he's back today, I will congratulate him. That's well-deserved, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. He's had a lot of top finishes in that tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins one before too long.
Absolutely. All right, let's move to race 4. And this is there's a special middle pick 4 that Frank announced today that I was actually unaware of. So we're going 6 furlongs, $32,000 claimers. What are your thoughts?
I think that Winning Big is the horse that appeals to me the most in this spot. And I think this horse is going to be the right kind of price. One of the things I'll do in prepping for a day is look at some of the international prices available on horses. Sometimes, in addition to the morning line, they can be a good indicator of how people are going to bet. I think this horse is going to be 6 or 7 to 1. Won the maiden race 2 back with some fast interior sectionals. And I thought the last race was okay. It was against better horses. It was on the turf. Horse stuck on all right. Didn't really do a ton of running. Was basically 6th throughout the whole thing. But the race came back okay on the clock. And now this horse is getting back to the dirt in a spot where I don't think there's any monsters. And I think just pace-wise, the 3, 4, and 6 could end up hitting pretty good early and maybe can set it up for a late run from Winning Big. The horse that I think you have to talk about a little bit here is Mr. Dream Cycle. This is the only horse in the field to have 2 wins and got a good figure the last day, but I thought could have been maybe flattered by the way the track was playing there. And this is a horse, though, that's too obvious on form to ignore for me in pick bets. But I'm going to take a little bit of a stand against this favorite with Winning Big.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Mr. Dream Cycle just because of your fear that maybe this horse clears, and you're thinking that the 3 could apply some pressure as well as the 5, right?
3, I saw maybe 3, 4, and
3,
6
4,
being able to vie up there, and the 6 may just bury them, and it could be a crazy idea. But I'm hoping that Winning Big can make a run and maybe at least get up into the exact at a price.
And we always talk about trainers. It's like anything else, athletes, trainers, whatever. Trainers get on a roll. They get cold, they get hot. Parabon on a roll right now. I mean, that's always something to take into consideration, right? The barn gets hot. They all seem to run well. And right now he's hitting at a high percentage. That obviously goes into some of your thoughts.
100%. When you can align yourself with those hot connections, and especially when you can sort of spot the streaks before everybody notices, when you can notice they're not necessarily winning races, but maybe you have a trainer whose horses are just outrunning their odds, a 15-1 shot that runs third or something, and you can get wind that hot streak is coming. It's something you can definitely bank on. It's something that's worth paying attention to. And of course with jockeys as well. When their confidence gets up, when they're in tune with what's going on there out on the racetrack, when you can identify those trends, it's not just, oh, this is the leading rider. You find some more subtle reasons to be backing somebody that can pay big dividends.
And not to turn it back to your side because he's not running here today, but obviously it happens the other way. And a very rare one was the fact that Chad Brown had been very cold over the last month or so. I think he might have started to heat up. Yeah. Obviously he won with Sierra Leone last week, but he was on a very big dry spell for him.
Yeah, which is weird. I mean, sometimes when you have that many horses, I think it's randomness as much as anything else. But there have been meets, I think back to, going way back in the day, there was a meet at Saratoga where Bobby Frankel was ice cold.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where the horses were still all getting bet, and the crowd was not tuned into this at all. And yeah, you can one of the greatest trainers I've ever seen, but there were times when those cold spells were happening where there might have been a little bit of equity in standing against.
Right, and that's something that you have to pay close attention to because you could take advantage of it one way or the other, especially against someone like that who's cold. You got to wait till they turn that around, and they are still going to get bet time in and time out.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I would never put it up there with the fundamentals of what I'm looking for, in the first order, but it's those extra little 2% edge you can sometimes get to help make more efficient wagers.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to race 5. We are starting the pick 6 here, and a very interesting race. Kings River Night, 9-5 on the morning line. Certainly turned into an absolute win machine. Likes the lead, but can sit off also. First of all, what are your thoughts on the pace scenario? And is Kings River Night a standout here?
I think so. That's the way I see it. I think Kings River Night in this spot is going to be able to stalk the speed, the presumptive speed for me being the 2-runner Silver Surfer. When I first looked at the race, the biggest question was, what is this multiple stakes winning type horse doing in a spot like this? There was a great note in the Daily Racing Form from my former colleague, Brad Free, though, that the state-bred stake that Kings River Night would have been in was canceled, unfortunately, due to a lack of entries. So they go here instead. This is just the best horse on form and figures, and I think is going to get a really nice trip in this spot. Kafkin Peak, the 1-runner, certainly worth talking about as well. This is an old class horse who's run plenty of races, good enough to be competitive with Kings River Night and all the rest. I do worry maybe about that one getting a little bit too far back, and it's an open question, I suppose, as to how much he's got left in the tank, but too obvious of a contender to ignore. This is a race where you could go a lot more than too deep if you wanted to, but my main opinion is going to be to play Kings River Night to do the business.
Yes, and you are correct. Kings River Night was supposed to run against the Chosen Vron last weekend, so now they move into a different spot. not a stakes race, but I'm sure they're not too upset about not facing the Chosen Brawn.
One of the coolest horses in recent vintage. I'm just such a big fan, and it's been so great to watch the Chosen Brawn really surge and just continue to get better. One of my favorite horses to watch do this thing.
Kind of becoming one of those California bred legends around here now. So now one more thing about this race. It's a little bit different because I think we said Kings River Knight can sit off. But does it always concern you when a trainer like Phil D'Amato has two in? So you got to figure Silver Surfer, like you had mentioned, is going to send, right? Because they're going to send one to set it up for the other. Hopefully the 2 and the 5 hook up. That's kind of the thought process.
That's what I was thinking. When you see a trainer with multiple runners and not that big of a field, it just makes sense to employ team tactics. Not necessarily saying it's a straight up rabbit situation, but I mean, when I look at this race, I think it gives both horses, both D'Amato runners, their best chance of winning if Silver Surfer goes forward and Cathkin Peak tries to come from a little bit off the pace. And nothing untoward about it. That's just logic and team tactics that make sense and give potentially both those chances their best chance of success. But I wonder if in the end Kings River Knight's not just going to prove too tough for both of them.
Yeah, Wind Machine, who's gotten very good, looks very tough to beat. All right, let's move on to race 6. We're going 7 furlongs, maiden special weight. That is a tough distance to win, especially for some first-time starters. I mentioned that because Theismann has kind of been long awaited, draws the rail, which is tough in itself. Any thought to that horse, or what are your thoughts in this race? I don't know if you saw I'm sure you saw the Vegas Burner race last time.
Yeah.
Stumbled badly at the start, flew home and lost by just a neck.
Yeah, Vegas Burner looks, I mean, I'm giving an obvious favorite here, but this is a horse that I need to have on side. That run 2 back against Judge Miller, who we'll get to in a little bit, gave that horse all he could handle. And then last time, as you mentioned, after missing the kick, ran absolutely huge in that spot when seemingly out of position. And I just not too worried about the previous form of this horse because so much of it was on turf. It just looks like one who's clearly improved. Love the idea that the Tory is in the irons and this horse just has a significant figure edge. There's some stories you can tell about other ones, including Theismann. I made my second choice in this race, though, Appreciate Today, because looks like a horse that might be able to shake loose in this spot. Loses the Tory to the top pick, but from that pace point of view, a reasonable alternative. Theismann's definitely worth talking about. I'm not sure how many tickets I'm going to have this one on. It's $1 million baby, trained by John Sheriffs, working very fast in the morning. And when you see a trainer like Sheriffs have a horse working that fast, typically they're doing it on talent. They're not being, this is not a guy who wins at a huge clip first out and pushes his horses. He lets them, come along as they want to come along. Quality Road, though, the sire has great stats with firsters. Not like I'd fall out of my chair if Theismann does well, but probably one who's going to be better later on with more distance and maybe even on the turf.
My quick tidbit before we get to the next race that has absolutely nothing to do with this race other than the name Theismann. When Joe Theismann went to Notre Dame, his name was Joe Theismann.
Yes.
And the powers that be at Notre Dame wanted him to win the Heisman Trophy. So they literally changed his name to Theismann, and then they said Theismann for Heisman. But his original name was Joe Theismann. Look that up. I'm not making that up. As my producer is yelling at my ear, I'm talking about Notre Dame again. But that is the meaningless trivia about Joe Theismann, and I'm sure this horse is probably named after Joe.
No doubt. And while you're looking things up, avoid the Monday Night Football clip with my man Lawrence Taylor and Joe. You don't want to see that. That's not a sight for
never again.
Civilized eyes.
No, there are a few of those you don't want to see again, and that happens to be one of them. All right, let's move on to race 7. This is the Grade 3 Santa Ana. Going 1.25 miles on turf. Linda's Gift, 5-2 morning line, has that high cruising speed. Seeds have found a home going long. Went 47 flat and just kept going the last time. Does anybody go with her early? Does anybody beat her?
I think I'm not going to say that she's vulnerable because she's a very likely win candidate, but I feel like there might be some value in going in another direction. And for me, that's going to be number 1, Queen's Command. this horse has a real distance question mark. I mean, looking through the pedigree, looking through the form, doesn't necessarily need to love going a mile and a quarter. But I really like how Queen's Command finished up last time going a mile, and that race was off a 400-plus day layoff. So I'm guessing there was some rust that should now be off. And I also think that the published figure from that day might be a little bit low, as 4 of the 5 to come back and run have improved their figures at least 5 points on the buyer scale. So now with that armed with that info and thinking about the trip she's going to get, which I think should be from nice inside outside type trip stalking, I think there's maybe just enough speed to set this one up for a closer. Hopefully maybe the 2 can keep Linda's Gift honest. I'll definitely be using Linda's Gift on some tickets, but I think Queen's Command is where I want to go in the feature.
And one of those races, sometimes, like you said, figures don't mean everything. That's one of those races when you go back and watch the replay, visually very impressive, like you mentioned.
Might be a little bit more in the locker for this Queen's Command. And again, a horse that I think should be a decent price because of the attendant questions and some of the really talented runners in this race, none more so than Linda's Gift, who may be tough to deny going for the 3-peat, but there might be a little bit of an exacta play here as well, 1 and 6.
And all you don't fret, by the way, that Flavian Pratt is not on Queen's Command. Flavian Pratt went to Saudi today, so
Yes.
there are some rider changes, and that's why. So some people look sometimes, oh, this jockey jumped off. Sometimes they're
not always the case.
The good ones go elsewhere sometimes,
it's
right?
a dangerous game, that jockey musical chairs game. It can pay dividends, but a lot of times, even when they're on another horse in the race, you'll talk to the jockey or the agent, and you'll hear all manner of stories as to why that happened. Oh, well, they were pointing for this race, and we gave the call to this guy, and he wouldn't let it get up. That's not something I go too crazy looking at for that exact reason.
That happens way more than people think.
Yeah.
They look too much into it, and there's a circumstance. They committed somewhere, a horse got scratched, a race didn't go, and then they gave the call to someone else. So I agree with you. Buyer beware on that one. It's not always as easy as it looks. All right, let's move on to race 8. We're going a mile optional claimers. Very interesting race. Another short price here. Judge Miller doing something for the first time. That's going 2 turns. What are your thoughts here?
Well, that used to be an angle my great friend and mentor, Harvey Pack, used to talk about all the time. You don't want to bet on a favorite doing something for the first time. I think Judge Miller may be an exception to that rule for me, though, and it has to do with his bloodlines. I mean, this is Clariere's little brother. This horse is actually supposed to improve going longer, so I'm not going to hold that idea against him. The horse has really looked like a future stakes winner in both starts and appears to be working well for the return to the races. The alternative to me, and it'll ultimately come down to price if I'm going to use this horse more than in a token way. Number 1, None Above the Law, I think is worth talking about, probably more for underneath. Just in the last couple of dirt races, had kind of tricky trips, I thought, decent numbers, and looks like a horse that maybe could be poised for a forward move in the second start of the year. Will it be good enough to get to Judge Miller? Probably not, but it's a contingency that I think I want to cover here. I'm pretty much all about the 4, Judge Miller in race 8. A little bit of a backup on the 1, None Above the Law.
Never done something for the first time, but at odds on, the horse looks very tough to beat.
Yeah, it was even money in England earlier this morning, and I was on with the Brits before, and I told them to take all that because I think by the off, this is a horse going to probably be more like 1 to 2.
Correct. I agree. All right, we move on to race 9, Allowance, and one of our favorite races. I'm sure it's yours, especially to see in person, going down the hill.
The best.
One of the best races in all of the country. And what are your thoughts here?
It's an interesting and competitive race where in some places I could spread much more than the 2 horses we're going to talk about. I put the 5 Virat on top. This is a horse that has some good runs on the downhill. Course and distance form, it's just so huge for me in general. Never more so than on the downhill, of course, that some horses like and some horses don't. I like the fact that this newly turned 5-year-old ran his best race under Dettori last time. Dettori in the irons again. I think this horse can move up, 3rd race of the form cycle, plenty of time between races, and I thought would be one that would get a nice trip, the speed to stay in touch, and I think enough finish to pass them all. Another horse that's a downhill winner who I wanted to have on side is the 7 Grey raised. This horse coming off a career top figure, maybe has the speed to lead them all the way, and comes out of a stronger allowance race where there was a fast pace. You could talk about a lot of the horses in here, the 6, the 9, but really 5 and 7 are going to be my best options in all these late picks that will include this race.
I want to bring up one thing about Frankie Dettori and your thoughts about this. Since he came to Southern California, obviously we knew how great he was, but it surprised me how aggressive he is.
Yeah.
Extremely aggressive, takes it to him, and he has absolutely dominated down the hill to boot. Shocked me.
He's really a perfect storm type of rider. That aggressiveness, he'll do that on the turf too, as you just mentioned with the downhill. But I think when it comes to the dirt rides, the fact that he was here, much earlier in his life and got to watch all those great riders and how aggressive they were back when he was starting out, and he channels that. And when you talk about the perfect storm, he's incredibly shrewd tactically. I mean, obviously he's got great hands in terms of getting a horse going and also being able to finish. And he's also got a clock in his head. So he'll have his horse in the right spot. And it doesn't always have to be the right spot. It's not like this guy has cookie cutter rides. He adjusts to the different scenarios and earns every bit of the praise that's heaped upon him all around the world. And what a treat it is. We've been able to get to see him here in the USA and at Santa Anita these last couple seasons.
Yeah, the great ones are great for a reason. And they know, like you said, how to adjust on the fly, see what the pace is, and they're always in the right spot.
Yeah, he really is worth. I mean, I don't generally do. I mean, jockeys are very, very important, but they're often very much priced in the marketplace. Dettori is so good for me that I make him worth something. If I'm doing ability figures and coming up with a number I think each horse is going to run, Dettori in the irons is worth a point or two.
No question. Age is but a number too. He's got a few years on him, but his ability, his skills, his knowledge is second to none.
You're not saying that people in their 50s are old, are you?
Well, no, because I'm already there. So yeah, actually I am. I can't hear. I can't turn my neck. Thank God Frankie's riding and I'm just sitting here babbling. So anyways, all right, let's move on to the 10th and final 6.5 furlongs, again on the turf, but out of the chute this time. $25,000 non-winners, a 2 lifetime. How are we going to finish this off with a winner?
I think it's going to be one at the shorter end of the odds spectrum. We did this race on the podcast, and Frank Scatoni, who does a fabulous job doing write-ups for Santa Anita Daily over at santanita.com, saw this as more open than I did. I just kept coming back to the 2-runner, Johnny Drama. It's not just because I'm a big Entourage fan. This horse is going to get a great forward trip in this spot. And at this level, I really like the recent maiden winners against horses who have a lot of proven losing form and seconds and thirds. I also thought that Johnny's last race was maybe a little bit better than it looked. The pace was fast for the level, and the other speeds that Johnny Drama dueled with finished last and third last in that spot. You put it all together, and I think Johnny Drama is going to deliver the goods here in the nightcap. Wouldn't mind having some backups. The 9, National Generaux, a horse who's certainly very, very logical. Frank made some cases for some other long shots on the show too, like the 3 and the 7. So I'll cover some possibilities, but half the money for me in this last race will be running through Johnny Drama. Hopefully we can get the victory. See what I did there?
I was ready to throw that out there. There's a very good chance probably Kevin Dillon often comes to Santa Anita, especially on the big days. So he might be here next week. And I would love to have had this horse run when he's here. And he would scream the victory, of course. But we would like to get home with a victory with Johnny Drama for the final race.
That's the plan, my man.
Well, I appreciate your time, and it's always good seeing you. When will you be out again?
I will probably not make it back out this meet, but with the Breeders' Cup being in Southern California, I plan on having multiple trips out in the summer, maybe get a jump on some of the work I'm going to be doing with Breeders' Cup. Very important client for us In the Money Media. So there'll be some Del Mar visits, and hopefully back to Santa Anita in the fall. It's one of those places where at least once a meet, I try to get back here. It's such a beautiful place. The racing is great. The people are great. And there's nothing like Santa Anita, a true jewel in the USA racing crown.
No question. And make sure to play that Coast to Coast Pick 5 as well that you and I talk about quite a bit. 15% takeout, dollar bet, one of the best bets in racing. The average payout is astronomical and such a terrific way to play Gulfstream in Santa Anita.
I love that bet. I love the all turf pick threes. We've got write-ups on the Coast to Coast for free over at inthemoneypodcast.com. Folks might want to check out.
Well, I thank you, sir, for joining in today. And, I hope you come back soon. I hope to get out to see you soon. And I hope everybody tunes in next week. We will be doing the mashup show, previewing the big day on Big Cap Day, probably Thursday or Friday evening on your YouTube channel and Santa Anita as well.
It's always fun working with you, my friend. And I do hope you let TQ out of wherever you have him stashed so he can come back and do his thing. But pleasure being with you today, and looking forward to doing it again soon.
I've had so much fun. I doubt you will see him anytime soon. So for Peter Thomas Fornatale, I'm Tom Quigley. Thanks for joining us. May all your bets be winning ones. Good luck, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. Good afternoon and welcome to Santa Anita Park, the great race place. Track is fast, turf is firm, rail on the turf at 10 feet. Here are the changes. We have another super high five carryover in the first, $10,256. No changes in the start of the early pick five. No changes in the second. In the third, scratch six, Love Me Like a Fool. No super high five in race three. Special middle pick four today. Take note of it. We've had some great payoffs over the years in these middle pick fours. Races 4, 5, 6, and 7. 5 winning big, 2 over. In the fifth, we kick off the dollar pick 6. Changes. Just those blinker notes. In race 6, we started the late pick 5. 2 of them. 7th is the Santa Ana Stakes. Start of the $3 all-turf pick 3, races 7, 9, and 10 for that one today. Late pick 4 starts with the Santa Ana. No changes. 8th race. The Happy Birthday Frank race. Blinker notes. Race 9, scratch 3, player B. 3, player B out of the 9th Golden Hour pick 4 starts with race 9. And the 10th scratch 4, Tigers Arrow, beginning of the Golden Hour double. Enjoy your day at Santa Anita Park. Post time for the opener, 24 minutes at 12:30 p.m. Keep in mind, it's Saturday, and that means the coast-to-coast pick 5 with enormous payoffs and player-friendly takeout of 15% offered once again. It starts in an hour and a half. Today, we kick it off with the 10th from Gulfstream at 1:36 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday. Gulfstream, Santa Anita, the coast-to-coast pick 5. And they're off.
The Old Turf Pick 3 starts with race number 7, and it's a stakes race at Santa Anita. Here's a quick look at my ticket. Races 7, 9, and 10. My ticket total is $36, so it's an easy ticket to play. Let's take a look at race number 7. It's the grade 3 Santa Ana going 3 deep in here. I'll use Queen's Command down on the inside. Pratt is riding in Saudi Arabia, so Fresu will take over. The 5 horse is Kinjani for Mark Glatt. Watch out for this one. She'll probably be a bit of a price. I think she's the one to beat. And then the 6, Linda's Gift for Dick Mandela. Let's take a look at race number 9 in the sequence. And race 9 is 6.5 on the downhill turf course. And other than, I'll go too deep in here. I'm going to use the 2 Man Among Men and the 5 Virat for trainer Dan Blacker. But let's take a look at Man Among Men's most recent work. Now, we've not seen him since the 3rd of September 2022. He runs well fresh. He's obviously a pretty nice horse. He's 5 years old. He's a full horse. They paid $360,000 for him, and this is a really, really good work by a turf horse working on the dirt. Switches leads on cue. 47 flat, barely being asked. He worked a minute the week before,